What
Ooh.
is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Always on Guard with Team SWARTZ. I have a special treat for you. I have an 11 Bravo combat certified former active duty recruiter, Sergeant First Class. No, Staff Sergeant, right?
Staff Sergeant for now.
In this case, for now, first name Drill, last name Sergeant Takashima. All right, he's from Fort Sill. He's here, and we're gonna answer any and all questions pertaining to the current conditions of Army basic training. Anything you want to talk about in the next hour. All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself. How long you been on the trail and all that good stuff.
Ooh. All right, we'll go a little bit further than that. So, Drill Sergeant Takashima, been in the Army for 11 years now. Infantry, most of it. Recruiter. As crazy as it sounds, I was a recruiter at one point, and now I'm a drill sergeant. I've been on the trail for a few months now, total of 1 full cycle. So nothing crazy. Still learning everything, but I do have 1 cycle under my belt, and I have a lot of information that I can give out to the world, whoever has questions.
Definitely. Well, those of you who don't know, we actually went through the same drill sergeant academy at the same time. We were actually roommates.
We were. It was awesome.
Yep. And if any of you have any fitness tips or would like some fitness tips, he's really diehard into CrossFit as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to be posting his Twitch channel in a second here. He's pretty big on Twitch, and I will also be posting his YouTube link as well.
Appreciate that.
So good evening, everybody. Thank you, Nadia, Elam, Manny, Maria, Acidic. Thank you so much. Melissa, Maria, Ronald. All right. So whatever questions you want to know, I have some questions for you because I actually would like one clarification with you.
Let's do it. I'll do my best.
I've been getting a lot of statements from recruits that were back on holiday block leave telling me that the video I put out, how the ACFT, they're confirming, but also saying that there's a caveat to that, stating that although the Army Combat Fitness Test is not a graduation requirement, it is a forge requirement. Could you clarify that?
So it's kind of like everything in basic training. There's things that are technically graduation requirements, and then there's obviously things that as drill sergeants, we obviously would want to see you pass and like succeed in. So as a graduation requirement, we do tell everyone that it is a graduation, but as everyone already knows, and as you stated in your YouTube video, it can't be held against you. So I guess take it for what it is, but at the end of the day, we as drill sergeants do push to obviously help you better yourself, because at the end of the day, the ACFT is going to be something that you're going to have to pass, and it's not going away anytime soon. I don't know if the standards are going to change, if it's going to be any harder, any easier, but at the end of the day, it is going to be something that you do have to pass. So our jobs as drill sergeants is just to make sure that you're successful in your career. We don't want to send you off and like with half a bag. We want you to have a full bag of tools and be successful in your career.
100%. Now I understand that there's an alternate event that they've implemented at basic training. Could you talk about that?
Oh, sorry. Say that again. I was looking at the chat and I actually know somebody. Yes, we were roommates in drill sergeant school.
Yeah. So for the alternate event for the leg tuck, because obviously a lot of females and some of the males are struggling in that event. I thought it was a 2-minute plank, but somebody else was suggesting that there's a hang from a bar.
So us personally, we don't do that. Everyone does the leg tuck, and if they can't do leg tucks, it's just one of those, like we don't even have them do like the planks. So, but I know what you're talking about. There is the whole talk of there being the 2-minute plank in place of that if you can't pass the leg tucks, but we haven't had anyone do that. But no, I've never heard of anyone hanging. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, that came in through some of my comments. I couldn't see how that would be possible, seeing how that's not even part of the ACFT 2.0 that came out. Because the plank isn't technically supposed to be offered at basic training either. Yeah, by the current guidance, but it's been happening.
Yeah, that's why
get a waiver or whatever. But yeah.
So and the crazy thing about being a drill sergeant is there's so many rules that, a big blanket of rules that we have to follow. But at the end of the day, every unit, like every battalion does things so different. Like it's wild. I drive into work or I walk around, I'm with my trainees doing my thing, and I see other drill sergeants doing other things, and they're not wrong things. I'm not saying that they're doing bad things, but I see people doing different things, and I'm like, I ask those questions. I'm like, why is it so different over there? And they're like, that's just how their command does it. So it's pretty interesting because command gives drill sergeants a lot of freedom to ensure that the trainees get to the end result, obviously graduating from basic training. So then we all go about it our different ways. I'm very happy to be with the people that I'm with because I agree completely with how we run everything. And at the end of it, like I was telling you earlier, it's so rewarding, like to see these kids at the very end, to see just them graduate. Like it's wild. It is wild.
I just added your Twitch to the
thank you.
Comments there. If anyone wants to check that out. So I think I heard Fort Sill was also the very first base to start issuing the pinks and greens.
Yeah. So that's wild. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no worries. I saw that on a live stream during one of their virtual town halls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we are actually like the flagship like basic training site to have pinks and greens. There's actually a guy, if I'm not mistaken, in your chat right now that was in my class, and he was one of the first to get pinks and greens. Insanely wild. Even more crazy because I don't even have them yet. I like for graduation. I mean, he'll tell you. For graduation, I still wore my blues. We're in the process of obviously drill sergeants getting them, and it's in that weird like middle ground of people coming in getting them, who gets them, when, how, blah blah blah. But yeah, the pinks and greens, they look amazing. Oh my gosh, they are, man, I can't wait to get them. They're so nice.
I'm one of 20 people in the state of New York and the New York Army National Guard that was selected to get them. So mine are in order. I'm just waiting for them to come in.
Nice. Oh man. I'm jealous. I feel like I'm not even on anyone's order.
But you're on the trail, so you should definitely get them.
Yeah. So the way that's working is, I think if you have more than a year left on the trail, you end up getting them at some point. Obviously, I've been through a whole cycle and still don't have them. But that's honestly like it's completely because of COVID. I was supposed to pick them up and then got quarantined, and then yeah, I'm still just life. It's just it is what it is.
So you being 11 Bravo qualified, right?
Yeah.
This would be a perfect question for you to respond to. What can I expect as infantry?
So you'd have to narrow that question down more, I guess. Is it like a basic question, like a basic training question, or is it like a lifestyle question? Because
acidic, no, I'm gonna put it on here. Acidic wheels. Do me a favor. Narrow down or pinpoint your question specifically, whether it's for the basic training or OSET experience, or if you mean like life after basic. Let us know. And then here you could talk about this one on your side, because reserve and guard, you have to volunteer for it. But you got DA selected, right?
Yes. So it's just like recruiting. The Army pretty much said, hey, you're going to go be a drill sergeant, and you have two options. Either one, you could sign a deck statement, but that halts anything favorable, any sort of favorable actions towards you. So you can't get promoted, no awards, nothing. And when your time is up on your contract, your current contract, then you're done. You can't do anything else after that. You get out. And it's not a bad thing. If you know that you're going to get out, if you have some sort of plan to get out, then by all means, I'm all for that. As long as you have that plan, But if you're lucky, if you're lucky like me and you make the decision to become a drill sergeant, then yeah, they just ship you off. It's pretty awesome though. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Got to meet an awesome person, had the best roommate ever. And then the other way, other than DA select, is obviously you can volunteer. You just got to be, as far as I'm aware, you just got to be a sergeant, staff sergeant. Yeah, you just put in a packet for it, fill out some paperwork, and the Army will be more than happy to send you to the academy.
If I remember correctly, on day 0 when we were in processing, I think only 5 or 6 of us raised our hands that volunteered to be there.
Yeah. What was it? 100? How many? Over 100 people.
109 to be exact.
Yeah.
We lost 2 to injuries and 1 due to,
I think it was COVID.
two to COVID actually. One
Yeah.
showed up, and the other one was dumb enough to open his mouth mid-cycle. I was like, keep your mouth shut, bro, because I am not coming back here later. We're doing this now.
Oh man, yes, I remember that. Holy, yeah, I remember that. That was I was on the fence because I agree with you. I was like, I would never raise my hand. Horrible idea, by the way. If anyone has any symptoms, definitely go to the doctor. But in this case, definitely just, oh gosh, I can hear myself. It's like a what's it called? It's messing me up.
Like an
Yeah,
echo?
definitely get treatment and stuff. Oh gosh, is it good now?
Yeah, it's good on my end.
Okay. There's getting some feedback. It's all good.
Oh, okay, cool.
But yeah, definitely I wouldn't have said anything, but at the same time, that's not the right answer. So.
Yes, ex worse. So yeah, it looks like you have a few of your soldiers in here. It looks like.
Yeah. What? See, I told you. I wasn't lying, man. I asked people if they knew who you were, and they said they knew exactly who you were.
I thought you were blowing smoke on my rear end, but you know, trying to gas me up. Let's see. J&J Film says that you're the best drill sergeant in Fort Sill.
Oh, well, compared to what drill sergeants, right? Because like, if they only know me as, I don't even know who that is, but if they're in my platoon,
here, if you recognize him.
I don't. I was in your platoon. Oh wow, yeah, I definitely don't. Films though, does films on YouTube? Crazy. No, I can't. I mean, I just can't make out the picture. Really, it's really small.
Yeah, it's very small. All right.
Man, we got a bunch of questions coming through now.
Yep. So kind of a long question here. I would like to go in as an 18X, but was wondering if I don't make it through selection, would I just be moved and needed to an MOS, or can I choose?
So from my understanding, if you don't make it through selection, so from my understanding, you go through infantry basic training, you go through OSIT, and then once you make it through that, then you go through like the SF training. If you don't make it through selection, then you're qualified as infantry, right? So if you went through 11 Bravo or 11 Charlie OSIT, then that's what you end up as. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty straightforward question. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a good question because a lot of people don't know that.
So how can you become a drill sergeant in the National Guard? So this one's going to be state dependent. Okay. So for me, my battle buddy and I, we were the first two statewide ever in the history of the New York Army National Guard to actually be sent to become drill sergeants. So some states like New Jersey and other states, it's a thing. They'll send you to drill sergeant school. Like New Jersey, they'll send anyone who wants to go, but they're assuming that role for at least a year where they have to go to drill and serve as a drill sergeant for the minimum of a year. In our case, you just gotta, like, if you're in the Guard, if you are part-time and you don't care about switching branches and you're not executing the state benefits for college, I would say it's easier to go to the reserve and then become a drill sergeant that way versus going to becoming drill sergeant through the Army National Guard. Just throwing that out there. And if you go reserve and become a drill sergeant, you're not necessarily guaranteed trail time to be a drill sergeant at a basic training site or AIT or whatever, but you have a higher chance of actually serving as a drill sergeant during that time. So good question.
Man, I just noticed there's a lot of, so all of the berserkers that you're seeing, those are all people that were in my platoon. We were the berserker platoon.
Oh yeah.
And then regulators. Yeah, there's a lot of people in here from just our, like, the last cycle. That's wild. There's even another there's actually another drill sergeant in here that is stationed at Fort Benning.
Oh wow.
I believe he's at Benning. But yeah, we went to school with him. I don't know if you recognize the name.
I probably haven't seen it because I'm going down. I'm not watching them live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going down. So leaving for Benning next week. Should I do a full whole buzz cut? So from my understanding, they're doing haircuts again at the reception battalion, assuming that after they test negative.
Yeah. So for us, yeah, they get a buzz cut later. It's kind of wild. So you know the whole yellow phase thing that Fort Jackson's doing. We have a similar thing. We call it C1, C2. Literally the same thing. First 2 weeks quarantine, whatever. But like, it's funny though. Like just to go off that a little bit, but it's funny because the kids show up and they actually have to, as of right now anyways, they have to be quarantined, so they can't get haircuts yet. So literally we're teaching kids to stand in, trainees how to stand in formation and stand in position of attention when they got like long hair that's like covering their eyes. It's the funniest thing ever. But to answer that question, that's completely up to you. 11 years ago when I went, it was I shaved my head, and literally they made me pay for another haircut when I got there. So I was like, I shouldn't have shaved my head. So completely up to you. But just know, never go full hua, right?
I would say if you can afford it and money's not tight, be within regulation. Because depending on the training installation that you go into, you may or may not get your haircut until after you've completed the controlled monitoring, which is like yellow phase, or like he said, C1, C2, whatever it's called. But otherwise, you'll eventually get your haircut, but it could get you additional attention from your drill sergeant if you got a extremely full set of hair.
Yes. Oh yeah. I had, like I said, that one dude, he had his hair all lit over his eyes, and it was like blonde. There's like blonde streaks in it. It was something that I could never just walk by without saying something.
This person's shipping out to Fort Sill, February 22nd. Any tips?
I mean, just be ready. Like that. I know that's very broad, but at the end of the day, it's basic training, right? So everything that you go there to learn, right? Like it's basic training. It's not anything that you already know. And if you do already know, then your recruiter did an awesome job. But at the end of the day, it's our jobs to teach you everything. So I would say be ready, have a positive mindset, understand the importance of working with a team. That's probably one of the biggest things that I've seen people struggle with. I've had a lot of people at the beginning of the cycle that actually wanted to quit, not because basic training, but because of the people that they were with, because of their peers, because they weren't willing to work together, because they weren't willing to make their beds, or like all the little things that add up to big things. So just be a team player, do your part. When it's time to clean, it's time to clean. When it's time to sleep, it's time to sleep. Don't be that person that gets the whole platoon in trouble because you want to be an individual. Basic training is all about teamwork and building that camaraderie with people that you'll literally be friends with for the rest of your life.
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself. Let's see. Is there anything I should know about when I'm going to basic training at 17 years old? Am I treated the same, and do I get the same training?
Yes, yes, and yes. You'll be treated. Age doesn't mean anything. At the end of the day, you're here, you're a trainee. We're here to train you to become a soldier. That's all it is. So, but yeah, same training. You won't get any sort of special treatment, good or bad, I guess. And there's gonna be a lot of other 17-year-old kids with you as well. I was 17 when I went. Yeah, no, nothing different.
So this one is one of my applicants who I found through YouTube. But congratulations, Nadia. That's freaking awesome. Keep driving hard, doing great things, and let me know when you're ready to take the test, and I'll let you know, and we'll get the ball rolling. All right. Let's see. Here's one for you. How much running do you do in Army basic training?
Oh, that's a really good question. All right. So, like I said, every battalion runs everything differently, right? So everyone that is here that knows me personally as a drill sergeant will tell you that we did almost no running. I know it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing to me as well. But because of COVID, we did our best to do 30, 60s, 6120s. But like the AGR runs, the AGRs, I guess, whatever. Those, yeah. Oh yeah, ability group runs, my bad. We kind of, at least our battalion specifically, we had to kind of stop that because of how close everybody would be during running. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's the wild thing though, is because we saw other units running also. So like I said, it differs just depending on what battalion you go to. Nonetheless, like the duty station or the whatever basic training site that you go to, Mm-hmm. So how much running do you do? It could be anywhere from a lot of miles a week, right? Because I'm sure when you went through and when I went through, we ran all the time. But now, at least us at our BCT, it's had to calm down just because of COVID. So hopefully we get a good hold of COVID, and then we can start running, because I do miss running with formations.
So I meant to do a video about this when I saw it come out into the Military Times, but I know combatives is definitely not back, but rumor mill has it is that the Pugils are back. Could you comment about that?
Yes. So, pugils. So yes, 100%. That's it. Right. So combatives still no. Sadly, still no.
I
Uh,
know.
but pugils, it is. I don't even want to say it's a rumor mill. We were told that we were going to do them. We were told that we got to start getting the stuff ready, this, that, and the other. We didn't do it last cycle, but it doesn't mean it's not okay now. Like I think we're starting to get to that point where we can okay it and we can do it. Obviously, just do what we can, social distance, masks, all the stuff. But yeah, sadly, combatives though, still nothing. It's just too close proximity with someone rolling
Yeah,
around.
too close, too much of a close contact.
Yeah, but combatives, man, I miss it. We need to bring it back. We need to crush this COVID thing so we can do combatives again.
This person was just responding to the other guy. Stop saying roommate. Why not? We were roommates.
Yeah, we were the bestest roomies ever.
All right. So let's see. Too many hours of PT do we do, or how many hours of PT do we do daily in basic?
It's just like a regular unit. Wake up. So typical days, wake up at 5. Formation was 5:30, 5:40, and you do PT from roughly an hour. So obviously, when you're in like the regular army, it could be an hour and a half, right? Because like when I was back in the regular infantry unit, it was an hour and a half. But we do roughly an hour. So it's not an extensive amount, but I mean it's so hard, and you already know it's so hard in the army to categorize what is PT, because if we're rucking somewhere, right, like 8 miles, that's definitely not going to be an hour. So you got to take that kind of stuff into account. And then, of course, you're running everywhere you go, literally formations, and then like 50 feet to the stairs, you're running. So if you want to count that as PT, then that's PT as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been getting a lot of questions because we went through it at the academy. I mean, we just pulled our masks down and everything. But what's the official word now when they're doing, I guess, running PT or running from point A to point B? Do they pull the mask down or they have to wear it all times?
So if we can create enough space, generally like 30-60s, then they can pull the mask down during the exercise, during the actual thing, right? So the ACFT, the sprint drag carry, when they're laying on the ground in the starting position, I have them pull their mask down. They're good to do that. So throughout the exercise, but as soon as they cross that line, they got to put it back up, which is miserable, right? Because ACFT, like sprint drag carry, is miserable, but it's
We know from experience.
but we definitely have to do our part. So yeah. But yeah, if it's what is that, aerobic?
Yep.
Whatever. It's high cardio intensity type workout.
Yep.
Then yeah, as long as it's yeah.
Yep. Actually, that'll actually reduce people's run time, the 30-60s and the 61.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You already addressed this, but if you are running, it's typically going to be 2 to 4 miles, depending on your unit and the phase of training that you're currently in. Let's see. Here's a good question. What are some major no-nos to do or say to a drill sergeant?
Ooh, okay. So one big thing that always triggered me was, it's funny. It's when people were overly nice. So it's when someone says like, please, drill sergeant, thank you, drill sergeant, or the worst is sorry, drill sergeant. And a lot of people in here will tell you, a lot of people in the chat will tell you that I personally get triggered when someone says sorry, drill sergeant, because it sounds like you're calling me a sorry drill sergeant. It doesn't sound like you're apologizing. And then even later on, people started changing it. And they're saying my apologies, and I'm just like, that sounds wrong. Like stop forcing it. But I get it. People were just raised right. I get it, 100%. And like I've admitted it to some of the trainees. But I'm actually a really nice person. I'm a really nice person. I'm always a please and thank you kind of person. So like holding doors open, oh man, it's wild, right? Because like it's not that you can't do that as a drill sergeant, but it's one of those isms that you just like you don't really do. Like I don't say please trainee do this. You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of funny that I have to hold back as well. It's funny.
Yep. Yeah, you got some regulators, berserkers, like you said. I don't know if you know this drill sergeant, but this one person right here said drill sergeant Bokanaga.
Yes, I know that person. That's all I'll say.
Hey, congratulations, MGO, for joining. Outstanding. Get ready. Get your mind right. Get your body right. Let's go. Let's do it.
It's too easy.
see how are acting the drill sergeants in basic training now with COVID-19? I think that's like a shark attack question, maybe.
I don't know how we're acting. If it's the broad question of just how are drill sergeants acting, less in your face and more masks. Not really and more masks, right? So it's funny because most of the time, trainees don't understand us. I don't like it's hilarious, right? Because I'll sit there and like be yelling, and like the looks that I get because they just can't understand me because I have a mask on, and I'm just like, going off whatever, and they're just like they just on top of like they're getting yelled at, and then they don't know what I'm saying, and I'm just like, this is But
kind of like our experience at the academy. It's like, what the heck are you saying?
100%, man. And it's funny too, man, because when we were at the academy, it was all. It's like, all right, I think this is what he said. Let's go with it, right? Yep. And like you can see that the trainees do the same thing. They're like, oh, I think this is what he said, and then they run off, and you're like, what the heck? Like I told him to go the other way. So, yeah, it's the same thing. But yeah, other than that, we're still drill sergeants. Our job is still to train, to teach, to mentor. So
yeah, I think this is a recruiting question. How popular is 12 whiskey? In our state, we have a handful down south. In the lower end of New York, for the New York Army National Guard. But that's going to be, if you're talking about reserve or guard, it's going to be has to be in your geographical area. If you're going active duty, I mean, you could probably answer that one. How often?
What's a 12 whiskey?
It's a carpenter, I believe.
Not.
It's definitely an engineer for sure.
Yeah, that one's. I mean, I didn't even know what a 12 whiskey was.
Yeah, Romeo was electrician, I believe. But whiskey, I believe, is carpentry.
Okay. Yeah, I know 12 is engineer branch, right? So, but as a recruiter, I don't think we ever put a 12 whiskey in. And based off my last cycle, I saw plumbers, but I never saw whiskey. Never saw 12 whiskey.
Yep. And we already addressed this, but yeah, combatants are canceled. Pugils more than likely are coming back. The Army Times actually posted an article about it. He confirmed it. They're getting ready for it. So there you have it. Let's see. Me and my brother are contemplating joining the Army. What's the likelihood that we would be able to do basic training AIT together? So my suggestion to you as a recruiter is go to MEPS on the same day. And if you're going for the same MOS, try to have the guidance counselor set you up. Now, the thing is, they could possibly get you at the same training location, maybe even in the same company, but maybe not even in the same platoon. They're not going to be able to guarantee you in the same platoon for sure. I've never seen it done. There used to be a buddy platoon program, but I've never seen it exercised properly or at all.
I forgot about that. Yeah. We had that when I was recruiting. Yeah, we did have. So with that being said, we did have two people that were brothers actually. I think in the battery, but I don't think they're the same platoon. But because of COVID, everything got so crazy. Usually, the platoons are all alphabetical. Everything got hectic because of COVID for us, so it's hard to say. But yeah, 100% what you said.
So let's see. Rook Carmona says, "I hope that there's a lot of good jobs open. I don't get to pick until I go to MEPS." I know for us, we get to choose before we go there. Well, active duty is different.
No, I have just as confused face as you do. At least from when I was recruiting, it was you pick it in the office. The only reason I can't remember, there was a reason. Oh, the only reason why you would have to pick your job at MEPS was if I think if you were like a test phys enlist, like if you weren't quite qualified. That's the only thing I can think of though. Other than that, same thing. We pick it before you go to MEPS. You get your your reservation, right? You guys do it the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there's a few reasons why. Not a lot though.
For us in the Guard, we guarantee them the MOS and a unit, and then the guidance counselor finds a training seat for them at MEPS.
Okay. I see that.
Yeah, so they do. Yeah, I forgot the technical term they use at the Recruiting Operations Center, but yeah. Here's a statement. You're very welcome, Cheyenne. Thank you so much. I know I love doing these videos. Let's see. Well, what if you can't pass the vision test? You fail. And if you're lucky, they'll recommend a consultation. Based on the consultation, they'll either permanently disqualify you with or recommending a waiver or without a waiver. So if they say that you're disqualified permanently and no waiver authorized, then you're a done deal. If they recommend a waiver, it's up to the proponent of the military to approve that medical waiver and then bring you into the service. So just do your best you can on the eye exam. Here we go. I actually saw this question earlier today. I wanted to look it up in the regulation itself before I gave a solid answer. I was told that you can, but I don't want to give you a definitive answer. So if you want to direct message me on Instagram, when I log off this, I'll go into the regulation. I'll let you know, unless you know off the top of your head, if you remember. I mean, it's been
Yeah, it's been years. I don't remember that one.
All right, let's see. Here's another one. Yeah, we already addressed this. Yep.
Longer combative course.
I leave for basic 7 days. I need to get my second dose of the COVID vaccine by the 24th. I'm worried I wouldn't get it in basic. Yeah, from my understanding, the training sites aren't even going to be offering that until at least March. April timeframe.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything either.
Well, B, you're going to be in training without the second dose. But I wouldn't really worry about it. So from all the virtual town halls that I've been watching, from Fort Sill to Fort Jackson, Fort Benning hasn't really been doing much. And Leonardwood, they haven't been doing any virtual town halls. But everyone, all the generals that spoke at those two virtual town halls, of the 99% of people that show up with no issues, of that 1%, maybe 2% of that 1% actually show signs and symptoms, and maybe 5 people, because I've been tracking it mentally, and 5 people that were actually hospitalized due to COVID symptoms were released and back into the training site within 24 hours. No one's ever been on an incubator, and no one has died yet. So don't even worry about it. Just go to training. Just wash your hands. Don't touch your mouth or eyes. All the stuff that CDC has been talking about, you'll be fine. Trust me, you'll be fine. And you can follow up with that once you get back from training or once you get to your permanent duty station if you're active duty. Oh my God, this is like the 4th one I've gotten in like a couple of weeks. No, do not bring your PS4, PS anything or Xbox. Leave it at home, man. You could play a Call of Duty in training, okay? You'll do it live, in person.
Man, that's wild. Yeah, I've heard stories of that. I've never luckily we haven't seen it yet. I'm sure someone's going to bring it one of these days. But yeah, I don't even know how people think that, man. Like when I was a recruiter, we made sure people didn't bring that stuff. So I don't know, man. That's wild.
I think they're confused with people that are in their rooms on active duty as a single soldier playing the games and stuff. Or heard in AIT that it was authorized. AIT, that would be something that you could get shipped to you. Don't waste your money on it. But if you do already have one, and wait until you get to the AIT site to get verification that you in fact can have it. And then the other issue you may or may not have is now you don't have a TV. Now you have to buy it. How are you going to get it home?
And that's if they even have like internet too, unless they're not going to play on the internet, but every game is on the internet now.
Yeah. So that's crazy.
That'd be, you're jumping through some hoops, but I guess if you're that dedicated to gaming,
I'd say hard pass, just focus on training and get it done.
But basic training, definitely not. Do not. Please do not.
In the process of going back in, I've been out since 14. Pennsylvania National Guard, going 88 Mike. Outstanding. Welcome back to the team. Welcome to the fight. Yes, I totally agree with this person right here.
It was already answered.
And this guy, Acidic Wheels, asks, is hazing still a thing in basic?
Is that for me? No. What?
Exactly.
No. Hazing, I can't. Okay, so I can't say hazing is not a thing in the Army, right? Like everyone knows it. It comes in a bunch of different shapes and forms, and but we do our best and we do everything we can as leaders, right? Like not even as a basic training or as a drill sergeant, but just as a leader, like to stop that. I think it's ridiculous that people even think that, like, that's the kind of the thought that people have about the Army. And nothing against Acidic Wheels, nothing against the population that isn't in the Army, but I mean, we did it to ourselves, and I think that's ridiculous, right? So, but no, hazing's not a thing. If there's ever a reason, say, for me to make you do push-ups, it's because you did something wrong, but it's not a hazing thing. You know what I mean?
Yep, 100%. We have to make sure that we identify why we're giving you corrective action, why we're making you do the push-ups or whatever exercise at that time. We can't just do it just because. Those days, back in definitely my day, back in 2001, that was a thing. Not anymore. Let's see. Leaving in 4 days. I've seen enough of everyone's experience. Only thing I hate is getting smoked for someone else's stupidity. You want to address that one, or you want me to?
I mean, I think we're gonna say the same thing, right?
How much?
Go for it.
Get over it. Even if you do it right, everyone pays for it no matter what. And by the grace of God, if you do it right, you're still going to do corrective training regardless. So it's going to foster you to work together as a team. So if you see somebody lagging, help them up, pick them up, help them. Right. Don't just be an individual and say, I got mines, I'm good. Right. So get out of that mentality. Help out your battle buddies, especially if they're struggling with something. Now, if they're being lazy, you got to figure out a way to motivate them, because if you don't, then we're going to motivate you. You either get stronger or you get smarter. The choice is and always will be yours.
100%.
For the most part.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It kind of just goes back to what we were saying before with the other question, right? It's just that you go there and you work as a team. And there's, like I said, there's people at the beginning of my cycle that wanted to quit, not because they were bad or they hated the Army, but because other people couldn't get right. But as basic training progresses, the initial is, yes, let's teach everyone teamwork and camaraderie, because we don't know what kind of background everyone's coming from. We're trying to get everyone to work together, regardless of if you like them or not. They're still a fellow soldier, right? Or a fellow trainee at that time. But once you become a soldier, they're a fellow soldier. And we're all on the same team. So you don't have to love the person that's on your team, but you will have to work with them. And that's one of the biggest things that we try to teach. You're not an individual. So if you hate that, just like you said, get over it. Like, it is what it is.
Part of the process.
Yeah. If you're not willing to be because you can't be part of the team that succeeds without being part of the team that fails as well. Like without taking the punishments that come along with it to eventually get the reward, So if you want to be rewarded as a team, you got to take the punishments as a team.
What I want to say is, and I say this all the time when I'm embracing the suck, character development. That's all it is. Character development.
It only makes you stronger, right?
100%.
Oh, it doesn't hurt you. Push-ups don't hurt you, right? Like
100%. They only make you stronger. That's it. Let's see. Brian Cole, what options did they give you when you went to MEPS? Did they let you pick from broad spectrum of jobs, or was it a small list? So, and I'm sure he's done the same thing as a recruiter. Once you pass the ASAP test, we're going to show you these are all the MOSs that or job skills, depending on how new you are to research in the military. But we're going to show you all the jobs that you are pre-qualified for. Now, if you're in a Guard or Reserve, that list may be a little bit smaller because it's got to be within your geographical area or a reasonable distance to travel. When you go on active duty, that's different. It's based on what is available at that time, just like Guard and Reserve. But try to choose something that you're willing to do full time, especially if you're going to go active duty. If you're going Guard Reserve, the job is really irrelevant. And what I want to stress upon you is, yes, the MOS is cool. It's great to have, but you're first and foremost a soldier. Do not forget your soldier skills, because at the end of the day, if we go to war, it doesn't matter what your job is. You are a soldier and you will be expected to perform as a soldier. So just remember that. But the way I do it is when you pass the test, I say, listen, this is the huge laundry list of MOSs or opportunities that are afforded to you. I need a list of most interested to least interested, but willing to sign a contract for. The more MOSs and choices you give me, the more of an opportunity I'm going to give you something that you're at least interested in. Do you have anything to add?
Oh, that was perfect. Like, I would have said the exact same thing. Back when I was recruiting, it's the exact same thing. Exact same thing.
So this is actually a good question. I know back in my day, our drill sergeants didn't give an F, man. If you wanted to leave, they were like, I don't know, one drill sergeant was like that. The other one, yeah, he talked us into staying. And I know myself as a recruiter, when I receive letters or phone calls of trainees in the training environment, yes, I talk them into staying. I give them all the positives for following through why they started. And 9 out of 10 times, I'll remember or recall why they were in my office in the first place. And I really reiterate to them their why, whether it's someone that's that they're doing it for, whether it's their kids or their family or whatever feature or benefit that they were looking for. But I remind them why it is that they walked into my office that day, because that's one of the first 2 questions I ask you when you reach out to me, after I pre-qualify you, of course. But you have anything you want to add?
Yeah. Yes. To answer that question straight up, yes. Like I said, I did 1 cycle, and I don't even know how many people I talked out of wanting to quit. Like, it's I get it. It can be miserable. You know, they're not hours that you're used to. And then a lot of the physical activities that we do is stuff that most people aren't used to, especially anymore with this new era of phones and all the craziness, right? Like computers, video games, literally everything. Like no one really goes outside and plays anymore. So even something as simple as like running around is kind of a lot for some people. But yeah, I've had to talk a lot of people out of it. And I'll tell you right now, every single one of them stayed, every single one of them graduated, and every single one of them couldn't be more thankful for me persuading them to stay, like convincing them to stay. And they're moving on to bigger and better things, and it only gets easier. Honestly, the hardest part is basic training. I'm sure you've told people that as well. It's the hardest part is basic training because of how much we have to do when it comes to training and teaching and this, that, and the other. But AIT gets easier, and then when you get to the big army, if you're active duty, I guess I would assume National Guard reserves as well. Once you get to like your unit, it's way more chill. Way more chill. There's no drill sergeants at your regular unit.
So for me, I went in at back then it was an administrative assistant, now 42 Alpha human resource specialist. Although basic training was was harder and more challenging, I actually preferred basic training over AIT because it was more. There was just more things going on and more fun training than sitting behind a computer typing away on the keyboard. So we're going to instill and enforce discipline on you when you go to AIT. They'll loosen up the reins a little bit, and it's more individual, self-discipline. And when you go to unit, it's up to you to do the right thing and all that good stuff. But, just drive on, do your best. And, once you get past red phase, that's the hardest part about basic training. After that, smooth sailing, right? Does it suck at times? Yeah. But the training itself is fun, and you're going to make friends of a lifetime. So just stick it out. I'm prior service Navy. Would I get any more attention by the drill sergeants at basic training?
Definitely. Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Like I said, there's literally someone in the chat right now that could answer that question for you because he was in my platoon and he was a prior Marine. And he wasn't like full Marine. He went through the college, all that stuff. He was going to be an officer, and then something happened, but he still learned the basics. So I definitely gave him more attention, but I also gave him more power. He ended up becoming my platoon guide, and he was our platoon guide for pretty much the whole cycle. Once we hit like white phase, and we allowed platoon guides and stuff like that. But you're going to be held to a higher standard because you already understand the ins and outs of the military in general, right? Like the respect, the whole rank thing, everything. Like you know so much more than everyone else does. So of course we hold you to a higher standard. Now that doesn't mean like your graduation requirements are any different. That definitely you're still in the same boat with everyone else. But like I said, we'll just put you on a slightly higher, like don't get a big head about it, but slightly higher pedestal to where you can probably be in charge of like the platoon and stuff like that. So, but yeah, you're definitely gonna get more attention once we find out, and we will find out.
Right. So for an older person coming in, especially being prior service, more than likely up front, they will identify you towards the beginning because they will assign you to a student leadership position. Because like Drill Sergeant Takashima was just saying, they're going to hold you at a higher standard. So as long as you drink the Kool-Aid, it sucks that you have to go through basic all over again. But as long as you do what you're supposed to, they won't mess with you as much, providing that you're doing everything along with everyone else. You're not special. You are held at a higher standard because you've been there, done that. So just, do your best and forget the rest.
100%. Yeah. That's a really good addition to that. If you're failing as, being a PG and being prior, like it's going to be more rough for you, right? Because we're holding to a higher standard. Definitely.
And then you're going to get some unnecessary attention that you were not looking for or hoping for.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. Any advice for someone older that is interested in doing infantry?
It just depends on
in general.
I mean, it just depends on what you mean by older, right? Because like I'm almost 30, and some people consider that old, and I feel like I'm doing just fine. It just depends on how active you are as a person and how ready you are to be an active person, right? Like, because not everyone's job consists of rucking like with a big backpack on for 8 miles and then going and hitting an objective, right? As like an infantryman, that's our normal job. That's what's expected of us. So it just depends on you. It just depends on you, your lifestyle. But I'll tell you right now, when I joined, I wasn't in any sort of shape to be infantry. Like I got myself to where I'm at today because of me, and because I joined and I understood that it was part of the job. But I personally don't think age really plays that big of a factor into it. It's just, I think it's a heart thing. I think it's a physical fitness level. And those are up to you. It's not an age thing.
I totally agree with you. I think age is nothing more than a number. And as long as you're physically active and you're young at heart and you're not afraid of hard work, then go for it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Someone that wants to ask, lost my mic here, or my mouse. There we go. Can I still get my wisdom teeth pulled during basic if I'm in the reserves?
Not that I'm aware of. We haven't had anyone's wisdom teeth pulled unless it's affecting your training in some sort of way. But no, I don't know. As a recruiter, I don't know if you have people do that before or after.
So what I do know is when you're going through the reception battalion, if they identify that you need your wisdom teeth pulled, if you're in a reserve guard and you have dental insurance, they more than likely, if you choose to wait until you complete your training and come back, they get it done. But you can get it done while you're at the reception battalion. If they can get it done while you're at the reception battalion, they will. But if you're stuck doing it during basic, my advice here is I would opt until you're done with training or get it done while you're at reception. Because if you miss a graduation requirement during basic training and you can't get it done with another platoon by the time you graduate, now you're going to extend your training and basically restart in that same phase, basically with a different platoon and not graduate on time as a result. So just be careful with that. But bottom line is, yes, you can get it done.
Yeah, we haven't personally sent anyone during the training. When I was a recruiter, we just made sure that you plan accordingly. You do it either before, you do it after. But just like
that gets identified at reception.
Yeah. Because reception, they could probably, I assume they could do it, and then they'll just hold you back from beginning your basic training until it's all said and done, and then you can actually go to training. But like in the middle of basic training, no, definitely not. Like you said, if you miss training, and I don't want people to think that to bank on the fact that, oh, there's a possibility of just getting with another platoon and then graduating on time. Like that's way harder than it sounds. So my recommendation, do everything before or after basic training. But when you're at basic training, like when you're there to work, be there to work. When you're there to learn, be there to learn. Don't try to get out of things because of wisdom teeth. That's definitely something you can take care of outside of basic, just because of it's so crammed. Basic training has so much stuff that has to be taught that you have to learn. So yeah, definitely plan accordingly. Don't try to get it in the middle of basic, because you're going to get recycled. It's going to make it longer for you, and you're not going to graduate with the people that you started with.
And you're going to want to graduate on time. As much as basic training is fun it is, you're going to want to.
You're not going to want to be there any longer than you have to be.
Exactly. So how much shots do we get at reception? I know there are 5 shots that you get. I don't know if you know them offhand, but I did a video on it. So if you want to watch that, you can check it out there.
Oh, I don't know them. I don't give the shots. It's not my job.
True. I don't have a hyperlink, but
Oh, I guess so. I'm further down in the chat, but I guess we did have someone get their wisdom teeth pulled. I don't even remember that.
yeah, it's definitely a reception thing, not something that usually gets done. Like they don't find out about it in basic. They identify it during the reception battalion, and you could be extended at reception because they have to give you a few days to heal before like profile basically.
Yeah, it's a hassle. It's not worth it.
Exactly. If you could do it when you're at home or outside of the initial entry training portion, it would be way better for you.
And even if you go and you do the recovery during the times of not having a graduation requirement, like you think you can miss that training, like literally missing 1 day of training, you're missing a lot. Because even if it's some sort of class, say there are classes that I'm teaching all day, it's going to be very valuable stuff that you can use in the future. And it's not a graduation requirement, but you're going to be missing out on a lot of things. So just missing 1 day. So imagine being out for that long.
100%, 100%. Somebody says, do you shoot guns? First of all, we don't have guns in basic training. We have weapons. All right. But yes, you spend 2 weeks on a rifle range.
Yep. Rifle marksmanship. Want me to touch on that a little bit? I can.
Go ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah. So 2 weeks, white phase. So the second phase, the second set of 2 weeks, whatever you want to call it, rifle marksmanship. So we teach you literally everything about the M4, take it apart, clean it, how to shoot it, how to hold it, different firing positions, an insane amount of information. And then you go and shoot it, right? So you do group in 0, and then you qualify. You do, we call it AFF, automated fields of fire, which is also LOMA, location on missing hits. It's really interesting. It's a cool little computer system that you use. The computer tracks where your rounds are going at the target, so you don't have to walk down there and check them. And then you go through all that again with the CCO. So you do it with the red dot sight, M68. So it's literally 2 weeks of shooting, and then I believe it was blue phase. It's so hard to like differentiate. It should be around the forge time. It is you do BTT2, which is battle buddy team bounding. So it's you and another battle buddy. You go through dry, then you go through blanks, and then you go through live rounds. So yes, there's a decent amount of shooting guns or weapons, not guns.
There you go. Here's a question for you. Is it true that 11 Bravo is not a good MOS because we don't have wars anymore?
Definitely not. What? It's
so even though we're not technically at war, we still have battles that are going on around the world.
And just because infantry isn't on the front lines kicking in doors and, you know, blowing stuff up or whatever, doesn't mean there isn't still some sort of security that has to be set in. Doesn't mean there, you know, there's still a lot of things that the infantry gets called up to do. It's not always just, you know, the typical infantry stuff that everyone thinks. Like pulling security for other people to ensure that they're safe is another huge thing that infantry does. But no, it's not. Yeah, at the end of the day, we need it. We need infantry, even if there was no war. Imagine if there's not a single war going on. It's still something that the army needs. It's still something the United States needs, is the infantry.
Here's a question. I mean, you're not in reception, so you probably won't know this, but at most locations, when you're at reception, you'll have limited usage of your phone back at the barracks, usually in the evenings, but that's also site specific. So
yeah, site specific. As far as I know, so COVID again, because originally when you and I went to basic training, we went to reception for roughly a week, and then we went to our units, and that's where we, you know, did all of our in-processing for the units and whatever. As of last cycle, when trainees showed up when in their buses, drill sergeants were there to take them to our site because of the whole quarantining thing, right? We can't have all of those people all housed in one area. So we actually come and pick them up. And no, you definitely don't have your phone. But if it goes back to like the old way with reception and stuff like that, you may or may not. When I went through, reception took our phones. So, but like you said, site specific, it just depends on where you go. That's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
And in my 11X is the broad. Well, you already know, but I'm 11 Bravo. So going in as 11X, you can be a Bravo or a Charlie. I came out as a Bravo.
Yep, 100%. Let's see. I know in the New York Army National Guard, we have no firefighters, but that, again, is going to be up to your geographical area if you're going Guard or Reserve. And active duty is your active duty recruiter can look in the system and let you know what's available at that time. So hopefully you get what you want if you qualify for it, of course.
So that's actually so in recruiting, that's a unicorn job. We called it a unicorn job because it's super hard to get. Oddly enough, I was the entire 3 years in recruiting, I was the only person to put one firefighter in the Army. So
Wow.
just to show you how hard it is to become a firefighter in the Army. It's so difficult. So I wouldn't bank on it at all. It's a unicorn.
I can see that. I mean, that was my first choice when I came to the Guard or even active duty to the recruiting office. But yeah. So how many people usually get COVID-19 in basic training, and should I wear 2 masks when I go?
How many people? It just varies. When I first got there, we were actually at the end of one cycle, and there wasn't a lot of COVID cases. But this last cycle, we had a lot of COVID cases. So it's just luck of the draw and how good of a job you guys do at keeping socially distanced. Just like all the news and all this stuff is saying about wear your mask, social distance, wash your hands, hand sanitizer, all that stuff. It's even more so in basic, right? Because you're not going back home. You're going to your bay where another 60 trainees are living with you. So personal hygiene is even more important. So at the end of the day, it just varies. It just depends on how clean you guys are. So that's hard that's a hard question to actually put numbers on. 2 masks, no, that's not necessary. I mean, I guess if you want to, that's up to you, but you will be identified for the person wearing 2 masks.
Yes. Now, they issue you a mask when you get there if they don't come with one, right?
Yes. They're just regular white masks, nothing crazy.
Here's one for you.
You get prayer 5 times prayer daily before COVID. What do you mean before COVID?
Well, I don't know. I don't think that really matters if it's before or after COVID, but I know you definitely get to see your religious figure at least once a week. But yeah, as long as it's not taken away from the training at hand, everyone that I put in that was a Muslim were afforded the opportunity to do what they needed to do.
Yeah.
The training at that time did not allow it.
Yep. And that's how it is for here too. We do everything we can to allow, especially for accommodate for religion. That's huge. But even honestly, like even vegetarians, we went out of our way to ensure that the chow hall gave us vegetarian dishes. Even though we only had, I think, 2 vegetarians, we still made sure that there was vegetarians. And even when we handed out MREs, we made sure that they got the vegetarian MREs. There was someone that didn't eat pork, I think, and we had to make sure he got like a chicken MRE every time. So like we do accommodate for all those things, and definitely religion as well. That's definitely something we're not going to take away from anybody.
100%. This female says that she's in quarantine right now at Fort Leonard Wood. We go to reception on the 16th, and there are 60 plus females. Yeah, so she must be in the quarantine ward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds fun. That sounds fun.
I chuckled at this comment. That's why you saw me laugh a few moments ago. Should I join the Air Force instead? I want to do a lot more PT.
PT's on you. I'm just gonna say that. It doesn't matter what branch you join. PT is strictly on you. I know people in the Air Force that do next to no PT. I know people in the Army that do next to no PT, but I know people in the Air Force that are the fittest people I've ever met. And the same thing in the Army. Like one of my best friends is insanely strong, insanely fit, and has nothing to do with being in the Army. That's just something that he takes a lot of pride in. Yeah.
Yep. So this one is, I can answer this one because I actually got smoked like a mother flower at basic training for this one. Story time, real quick. So I watched Full Metal Jacket. So if you have never seen that movie before, go watch it. So in the Marine Corps, they have drill instructors. In the Army, we have drill sergeants. The difference is in the Marine Corps, you call them sir or ma'am. to the drill instructors. For the Army, you call us first name drill, last name sergeant. So I watched Full Metal Jacket, and in the movie, Gomer Pyle, that was his nickname, he was told to choke himself when he messed up. So when I went to basic, I was still stuck in civilian and respectful mode. So when he said whatever, he called out my last name. So I just said, yes, sir. So he said, what'd you call me? I'm like, typical trainee. Anyway, he told me to beat my face. So yeah, long story short, I ended up smacking myself 3 times before I realized he meant just to get down and do push-ups. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just to back that up, Sir and Ma'am is what we call officers. That's one of the main reasons that we drill it into people, to make sure that they understand to call us drill sergeants, right? Because once you get to the regular unit, all the sergeants, all the NCOs, you call them, by their ranks, and then obviously officers, Sir and Ma'am.
100%. Here we go. I'm afraid I'm going to say yes or no, sir. When I go to basic, went to boot camp 15 years ago in 2006. Blah, blah. Oh yeah. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Don't make the same mistake I did. You'll definitely get smoked for that one.
Yeah, don't do that. It'll probably slip. It'll probably slip. I'm telling you, there's some people there that were just overly nice, and we had to train them, to ensure that, like, don't thank me. I'm just doing my job. I've said that all the time, man, all the time.
This is actually a really good question. How can you stay calm and not anxious before basic?
Ooh, that's a really good one. You got tips?
Yeah.
Go for it.
All right. So half the battle of preparing yourself for basic and feeling anxious is knowledge, right? They always say knowledge is power. In my opinion, knowledge is not power. Knowledge without backing it up with massive amounts of effort is useless. So with that being said, there are military YouTubers like myself. There's, a bunch of people that have already experienced basic training. So find out what to expect, right? So that may alleviate some of your fears, but experiencing it is going to be totally different, right? You might go there with a chip on your shoulder, be like, I'm a bad A. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to kick A, right? And then you get there and you get some big gnarly drill sergeant screaming in your face, and then now you feel like a little person. So I would just say figure out and learn what basic training is about, what to expect, and then just expect the unexpected. Know that you're going to get smoked or PT'd for making mistakes. Learn to cultivate an environment where everyone works together as a team, right? Teamwork is the key, man. That's it. Teamwork and attention to detail. Drill sergeants, we will not make you do corrective training until after we taught you. And then we ask you, are there any questions? Once we say, are there any questions, and no one responds, or we address those individual questions, from that point forward, you are now held accountable. So that's my thing, is just know what you're going to get yourself into. Physically prepare yourself. If you can, the moment you sign your contract, from that day forward, you should be running every other day, and at minimum doing bodyweight exercises, strength training in between. That's my best tip for you.
Honestly, one of my biggest pieces of advice is watch every single one of Team SWARTZ's videos. Right? Because like he does, I don't know if this is like fluffing you up too much or whatever, but in all honesty, he does so much research and talks to so many people across so many, like, I'm just a drill sergeant at Fort Sill. I don't know what's happening at Benning or Fort Jackson or whatever. He goes out of his way. He contacts people that are over there. He gets all of this information and he puts it in one entertaining and extremely informal video of informative video of what, like what to expect. So if you're not watching all of his videos before, then I definitely would expect you to be more calm or less calm and more anxious than someone that has watched all the videos. I know it sounds like it's fluffing him up, but 100%. He does so much to ensure that you have the information. All you have to do is sit there and watch it. Like, that's all you got to do.
I appreciate y'all who are watching right now. We have 120 people on right now. Do me a favor. If you like the tips that Drill Sergeant Takashima and I are sharing with you, do me a favor, hit that like button real quick. That would be really, really appreciative. And this one looks like one of your battle buddies. Next position, which I will name, explain, have demonstrated, which I will.
I mean, it could be any of our battle buddies.
That's true. That's true.
It could be anybody. I have no idea. Or just a prior drill sergeant in general. That's pretty funny though. Man.
So I actually did a video on this. Due to COVID, no one's officially giving the shark attack. And that's because of COVID.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what's going on in your area too.
Yeah. So we used to do a shark attack before I even got here. They used to do a shark attack. And just like I said, the way that everyone gets picked up directly from like the doors at reception, they don't go in. You guys don't go into reception. You get picked up by your drill sergeants and get taken to where you're actually going to be staying for the whole time. So it's kind of difficult to do a shark attack at that point. My biggest piece of advice though, if you think you're going to basic training, I don't want to say, if you think you're going to basic training and you're not going to get some sort of shark attack-esque like wake up or something, then like you're probably in the wrong, because at least what we do is C1, C2, we have to keep our distance and ensure that we're doing everything we can to keep everyone safe. But once red phase hits, it's full on red phase. Like it's not going to be the same drill sergeants that you saw during C1, C2 or yellow phase, whatever, depending on where you're going. At least for us, that's how it is. Because we have to instill, and we can't do that if we continue to just be relaxed, I guess you can say, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, so I would assume that when COVID eventually goes away, which in my opinion I don't think would go away from the training environment for at least another 6 to 12 months, and that's just my honest opinion.
Yeah.
But once COVID restrictions are lifted, I would imagine that it would more than likely come back. However, as you may or may not know, Fort Benning, only for 11 Bravo School, they took away the shark attack and they replaced it with the first 100 yards.
I saw that.
A few videos out there on that.
Yeah, I saw that. It's interesting. We haven't gotten too much word on it. Actually, I think one of our drill sergeants just went to some sort of town hall about that, or some sort of meeting in general about maybe what we're about to start doing. But yeah,
I could definitely see it going out to the other, not so with the first 100 yards is while they're at the reception battalion, they receive a card or some information of stuff that they're supposed to memorize about the 11 Bravo MOS, right? About the infantry, essentially. And they're quizzed about that on the pickup day, on day 0 of basic training. Mm-hmm. So they're probably going to have to make that generalized for the other training installations.
Yeah,
but I could definitely see the first 100 yards getting pushed out to everyone else.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're testing it, so I'm excited to see what it is, like what it's about to, like for me physically, to actually do it. I'm very excited because I feel like the shark attack, when I went through it in basic, it was a lot of hectic yelling, craziness. But I'm kind of interested to see the Army's take on the new style, because it does a lot of things for us as drill sergeants. It gives us an opportunity to see how you are physically, how you are mentally, just where you are, and see who we need to focus on helping more, who knows their stuff, right? Like simple military questions that, say, a prior service person might be able to answer, we can obviously figure out even faster that this person is prior service. So I'm interested. I can't wait to see what comes of it.
I like the concept, although I'm still kind of partial to the shark attack for its intended purpose. Obviously, we know that some drill sergeants like to up the ante a little bit.
A little.
But I think that I wish that they would keep both of them for their own right. But I do feel that the first 100 yards is definitely more physically challenging versus the shark attack. Shark attack is just a lot of yelling, unnecessary yelling, in my opinion. But it definitely gives that shock and awe and like, what the hell's going on? And that's the aspect of it that I like, but some drill sergeants take it a little too far.
Oh yeah. Some of them take it personally.
Oh yeah. I don't know if this person is someone that you know, or if they're talking about me, but that's my old recruiter right there.
Oh yeah. I know exactly who that is. One of the first female infantry in the Army.
Nice.
Yeah. Pretty awesome.
Oh yeah. I didn't even see her there in the back.
Yep. I know exactly.
Here, yes, when you go back to MEPS to ship out, you have to pass everything, or else you will not ship. Your ship date will be canceled, and you will possibly renegotiate your next ship date from there, depending on the scenario. But if your height and weight, I'm assuming that's what you mean. If your height and weight's not good, then yeah, you won't ship, unfortunately. Let's see. Is it possible to be just an EMT instead of a paramedic in the Army? So when it comes to 68 Whiskey combat medic, you're a combat medic. So there are two aspects of 68 Whiskey. If you're working in a hospital, you'll be considered a healthcare specialist. When you're out in the field, you're a combat medic. So essentially it's an EMT on the field. And that's pretty much how it is. But it's whatever your unit puts you. If you want to add more to that.
Oh no, I don't know much about the EMT or paramedic side of the Army. Just an infantryman.
Let's see. Somebody passed Fort Jackson.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Set of twins.
That must have been interesting.
Yeah, that's got to be fun for the drill sergeants.
100%. So the minimum qualifying AFQT score to pass the ASVAB test is not MOS specific. So for the Army, the minimum qualifying score to be able to sign a contract, not necessarily qualify for infantry, is a 31%. So watch my video. I'll post a link in the comments down below. You can find out what the ASVAB test is based on. So
yeah, I don't just to touch on that a little while you're doing that. For infantry, a lot of people think that infantry are like dumb, right? Like they think that we're not the smartest people in the world, and we just picked infantry because that's the only thing we qualified for. That's completely false. I just want that to be known.
The line score is actually pretty high for infantry these days.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I personally know that are ridiculously smart in the infantry, and I scored fairly high on my ASVAB as well. So I don't know. I just, to ask what like the minimum is, just aim for the max, like aim for the highest score you could possibly get and see what you qualify for. But
don't get too hung up on the FQT score.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't generate the MOSs. It's the entire test generates your line scores. And that in of itself is what depicts or tells us what MOSs we can offer you or certain opportunities. So I've actually seen someone score low on the ASVAB and qualify for, pardon my French, but a shit ton of MOSs. And I've also seen somebody score as high as a 54 and not have one qualifying line score.
Yep.
So just remember the AFQT score, that 31% or better, is do you know English and math enough to be able to join? That's it. The entire test tells us what job skills we can offer you.
Yep. Same thing. Same in the active duty side.
So this is a National Guard recruiting question. So I'll take this. If you're in the National Guard, but you choose to go active, can you switch during basic training? Absolutely not. I'm sure that we've had onesies and twosies over the years that if they knew the right person high enough in the right places, possibly. Now, by Army regulation, I've actually done the research. I just haven't filmed it yet. I have bullet points. By Army regulation, you have to complete basic training in AIT. You have to become MOS qualified before you can submit a DD Form 368 request for conditional release to go to another branch of service or a component of the Army. However, in the Army National Guard, if you don't know this, you belong to your state. Now, your state may have its own regulations. So in addition to that, like in the New York Army National Guard, we have a regulation that states that you have to be in your unit, your assigned unit, for a minimum of 6 months before such request could be submitted. Now, you could, if your commander supports it, submit it earlier, but the tag does not have to entertain it. The Adjutant General of the state for the New York Army National Guard does not have to sign it if they choose to until after the first 6 months with your assigned unit. So unfortunately, that's pretty much how it is. But if you're in reserve and you want to go active, once you're MOS qualified and get back to your unit, you can drop that conditional release ASAP. I mean, that's it in a nutshell, pretty much. You want to tackle this one? You're a PT stud.
Some good tips to get your time down for the 2 mile run. Run. I mean, that's the biggest thing that's going to help you with your 2 mile time. So specific workouts, Personally, what I like to do is I'll go for like a 2 mile run at around what I would do for like the ACFT, and then I will do sprints right after, like going directly into it with sprints. You're not going to get faster. Generally, you're not going to get faster your 2 mile time if you continuously only run 2 miles. You have to be able to put in the time and the effort, but it depends on what you're weak on. If you're not even making it to 2 miles without having to walk or slow down significantly, then you should definitely practice more long runs. So go on 2.5, 3 mile runs. And if you can easily do 2 miles, but your legs, you don't have a big enough stride, then I would practice sprints. So like 30, 60s or 100-meter sprints. I do like 10 by hundreds. So I'll literally do 100 meters in 1 minute. And then as fast as I do that, the rest of the time is to rest. And then I will sprint another 100 meters back, and then do that 10 times or however many times, 15, 20, whatever you can handle. But yeah, it just depends on what area. I know it sounds crazy because like running 2 miles just sounds like running 2 miles, but it just depends on what area of the 2 mile run that you struggle the most with, whether it be making it to 2 miles or just it being fast enough. If it's fast enough, work on sprints, work on strength. If it's just getting to 2 miles, then run 2.5, 3 miles. But just don't overdo it. I think a lot of people have a huge issue with trying to get good fast, and they outdo their body and they end up hurting their knees and their ankles, especially if you're someone that's never ran a day in your life and you try to go run 2 miles, you're going to feel it. And there's a possibility that you even hurt yourself depending on how hard you're pushing and stuff like that. So ease yourself into it, and hopefully those tips help.
100%. So Maria, our SRIP or our guidance for the Army National Guard just dropped today for bonuses, and I heard that it dropped down from 20,000 down to 12,500, but you can get a quick ship if you ship out within 45 days for another 7,500. But your recruiter will have the updated information with bonuses. Just understand that don't do anything just for money, right? Money's not that important. I mean, it's right up there next to oxygen, but never. I don't sell bonuses. I sell a lifestyle, whether it's active duty, reserve, or guard. Be more interested in getting a job, especially if you go on active duty, that you think that you're actually going to like. Like, don't just settle for a position that you know that you're just not going to like it, because you're going to be doing that every single day, 365 days, unless you're on vacation or leave. But don't do anything just for money. But if you are going to go in the Army National Guard, it's state specific, and it's part of the top 10 critical skills for that individual state. But to pre-qualify, you need a 50 or better on the ASVAB. Unless it changed, you need a minimum of 6-year contract. So talk to your Army Reserve active duty recruiter if that's a branch you're trying to go into, but that's how it works in the Army National Guard.
Yeah. So active, it's not really a month thing. It's just based off of what the Army needs. So say the Army needs more infantry, they'll attach bonuses to them. That's really what happens. But yeah, I cannot stress enough what you said at the beginning, where money, don't follow the money. It's a lifestyle. This is life changing, right? Like, this is something that is completely outside of what you're used to, unless you grew up with the military background, right? Like a dad that was a drill sergeant or something crazy. But most people, that's not really the case. So just get ready for a different, a unique, and for most people, a better lifestyle. Don't focus so much on the money. It's definitely not about the money.
Yep, because as fast as you get it, as fast you'll spend it. And if you chose an MOS or a job that you're not going to be interested in the end, trust me, once that money's gone, what do you have left? The job that you chose. And once you choose something that's attached to an incentive like a bonus, you have to fulfill that obligation for that contract in its entirety. And let's say you fail height and weight and you get flagged, right? And you don't fix yourself before the next payment or whatever, you could forfeit that incentive and possibly have to pay that back. Mm-hmm. And could possibly hurt your bank account later on with taxes. I mean, you'll get it back at the end of the year with the taxes, but when they want that $20,000 back and you already paid taxes on it, they're going to take that $20,000 even.
100%.
So as a younger kid, I was diagnosed with asthma. Would I still qualify to enlist? So the rule of thumb is, if you were born with childhood asthma and you have not had an asthma-related attack since age 13 forward, you will obviously need to have a PFT, a pulmonary functions test that's negative, and a doctor's note under their care that you've been asthma symptom free since whatever age, right? Or whatever your history is. And then we will have to submit a medical waiver, and based on the evidence provided and our consultation results, the CMO, the chief medical officer, will decide whether or not you are fit for duty. But every single person that has had childhood asthma that outgrew it, as long as they haven't had any issues since age 13 forward, have never had any issues.
Yeah, active duty side's the same, literally the exact same. We get the PFT done, send up the paperwork, and yeah, as long as there's no recent issues. Like we had people that were diagnosed with it when they were a kid. We got through all the testing and stuff, and some of these kids were rugby, football, basketball, whatever players, you know, like they played everything. It's like there's no way you have asthma anymore, you know, but they still did it right, still got the PFT done, did all the paperwork, and joined the Army. You know, I wouldn't stress it too much as long as you are, like you said, you haven't had any sort of incidences.
Yep. So this one is, what are the benefits of doing life in the National Guard? So whether you're a National Guard or Reserve, all the benefits are the same. So as a single soldier, you'll have healthcare about $34 a month, dental about $14 a month. I believe they rolled out or about to roll out with some dental, a vision plan. Not sure how much that is, but it's probably going to be comparable to the dental. And obviously education benefits, right? So 4,000 or 16 college credits, whichever one comes first, through the federal tuition assistance. The Montgomery GI Bill, 1606 Reserve GI Bill, is slated at $392 or $394 per month. Now, if you're going Guard, each state is different. So I'll put the link down here for you. But like here in the New York Army National Guard, we will pay 100% up to your first 4-year degree to any community or state universities, regardless of the tuition amount. So as long as you go to basically a public school, we're paying 100% of your tuition. You will never have to use your federal tuition. The advantage of going Guard is for that reason. So even if you go to a private university, right, our state tuition assistance here in the New York Army National Guard, at least, we pay up to the SUNY rate towards a private university, which is, last time I checked, $7,047. You can add your $4,000 from the federal TA, and it's a little over $11,000 that you could use toward your private tuition per year. So that's a huge competitive advantage that we have versus Reserve. And as long as you do 6 years at minimum part-time, you'll get the same eligibility requirements to meet for the VA home loan and or the small business loan. And those are like the biggest ones. Let's see. Here's a good one. You might get more information from the training site, but will the vaccine be mandatory?
I have no idea. You would think I would have some sort of information on that. Even as drill sergeants, we haven't even gotten word on if and when we get the vaccine, because the first batches are going out to other people, right? Like they have them set for who they're releasing to. So for us, we haven't had anything. So mandatory, I have no idea. Maybe I more.
I was watching the virtual town hall at Fort Jackson, and Major General Beagle stated that when it's not mandatory now until it passes whatever, but for it to be an option for trainees at the training installations, they will not be receiving them by his projections no earlier than the end of March, early April. And again, that's on a volunteer basis until it passes 100% through the FDA to be 100% approved. And then it would be, if they decide, mandatory from there.
See, this is what I'm saying, man. You do so much more research. Like, I'm just your average freaking drill sergeant here at Fort Sill, and you got all the information. You watch all the town halls. I'm telling you guys, this is the man's videos to watch. If you're not watching all of his videos, then you're not educating yourself on what's about to come, especially if you've already enlisted and you're just waiting to ship out. I'm just saying. Just saying.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Here's a good one for you.
How much freedom do you get towards the end of OSIT versus the beginning? It depends what do you mean by freedom? If you mean going off post to go to McDonald's, then never. Like, you don't get any of that freedom. For OSIT,
anyway.
So for OSIT, it's honestly like basic training straight through. Granted, things might have changed by now, right? Because when I went through, it was 12, 13 weeks. And now infantry OSIT's 22 weeks because they've added so much more. So I don't know what kind of freedom you get to, say, go to the shopette or like, I don't know, use your phones more. I don't know. I have no idea how that works for any OSITs. I personally work at a BCT site that just as it's a basic BCT site. So it's 9 weeks. It's not any, well, was it 2+8? But it's not OSIT. So I personally wouldn't be able to answer your question.
Every OSAT soldier that we sent through recently has told us that they didn't get their cell phones. They were treated like they were in basic training the entire time. And even if you go through a basic training and then an AIT portion, pre-COVID, if you were in AIT, you would get eventually on-post pass to eventually off-post pass. Anything on-post or off-post is pretty much cease and desist. It does not exist. You can still go places like the PX, like certain restricted areas on post during AIT, but it's extremely limited, and you're chaperoned basically to make sure you're not doing anything you're not supposed to, because they don't want you to break that bubble, as they call it in the training site. So they're trying to prevent everyone or anyone to catch COVID, right? So that's why even in AIT now, you'll have the weekends off in AIT in most locations, but you'll be restricted to the barracks in the general area pretty much. So this question we already pretty much addressed. Most places, if not everyone at this point, are going to be receiving the pinks and greens, or the ASGUs is what they're called now.
Just know Fort Sill was first.
Yes.
As long as everyone knows that.
But where are yours at?
They're at the cleaners.
Oh, man. I hate when this happens. Somebody was diagnosed with asthma, but they never experienced an asthma attack. Would they still be eligible to enlist? Are they in the military? Like, I don't know. At first, it sounded like they were in already.
I mean, yeah. To answer that question straight up, just get a PFT, right? A PFT clears you from asthma, you're good. You don't have asthma.
Yeah, just blow as hard as you can, as long as you can. Yeah. That's it. Take deep breaths, man. Let's see.
Drill sergeants be able to get their full power back? What's considered full power?
You mean getting all up in your face and your grill?
So I haven't changed much. From what the drill sergeants, the way that they acted when I went through basic training. Granted, I had good drill sergeants, right? Because there's always bad seeds or bad apples. But I went through, had pretty good drill sergeants, and I learned a lot from them, regardless if it feels forever ago. But will they get the shark attack back? No, we've already addressed that. The Army is definitely moving away from the shark attack, for better or for worse, whatever the reason. But full power, that's a tough way to. That's tough. I don't really understand that question, because I personally don't have any less power. I don't have half power. Like,
I think the perception is that the drill, because you have former drill sergeants that experience certain things, and even current drill sergeants that I speak to, sometimes they feel like their hands are tied, like they can't do, like the old era, like the golden era.
I mean,
is over.
Yeah, but that's the Army in general, right? Like, if you compare to what we used to be able to do, like we used to be able to do a lot more stuff than we can now. So I don't want to say that your hands are tied. It's just we're changing with the times, and we're learning and we're adapting. I think that's one of the biggest things that people need to understand about the Army is we're forever evolving. It's not just going to be like the caveman era. It's not going to be just crazy, whatever, preconceived notions that people have about the Army. Like, we're forever changing. I mean, look at electronic warfare, right? Like, we're getting crazy into that kind of stuff too. And if we got stuck in like the old days of how things used to be, then we would not be where we are in the technology world either.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's exactly what I was going to say, is we're forever adapting. What worked then does not necessarily work now. Like, I even said that in my video about the shark attack. Like, our generation back then were more willing to adapt, work together as a team, and be less of an individual. Whereas with the Generation Z and the millennials, everyone's more of an individual, and why me, why that, whatever, right? So it's a different mindset. And it's a whole different ball game. So we're adapting to the times with the different types of people that are joining now. And there's so many other things that are coming down the pipeline that are going to be also changing, like the way that we measure body fat, for example, or hair standards, right? We are the most diverse organization that's out there at this time. So that's why we do, like, you're going to be sick and tired of doing them, especially in basic training, but throughout your Army career, we do AARs, after action reviews. So we're looking at what worked, right? And what can we do to make it better, and what we didn't like. And that, in those scenarios, if you have good leadership, they will take that into account and change how they're doing things. And that's what the Army is constantly doing, and moving into a bigger, better force, making it more adaptable and better for everyone involved, not just a select group. This one's an easy one. So when you go to the troop store, man, there's only one type. The one that tastes like trash.
The one, yeah, was it Sepracol or something? I don't even know. I saw every trainee with it though.
Yeah, it's the generic, cough syrup type taste. But if it smells good, tastes good, cherry, it'll get tossed out by the drill sergeant.
It's the best and the worst cough drop because it's the only cough drop.
And believe it or not, cough drops would be like currency. So that's like candy to a trainee. It's like, hey, I don't want to do my fire guard. I'll give you a bag of cough drops.
Super weird. I don't know.
I never did that.
Yeah, I never did that either, but
it's a thing though.
What else we got? Damn, there's so many more questions.
I know. Is it possible to change your boot camp date because like getting degree first? I'm probably not going to get back to it, but short answer, it depends. The best time to do it is when you're more than 45 days out from your current ship date. So what happens is, if you fail to ship for your reason or an unplanned reason under 45 days, the Army is still spending that $75,000 to $150,000 for your training seat. So everyone involved in the leadership or the state gets gigged for that training seat not being filled. Even though they're going to fill it in with somebody else, they've already allocated that money for that training seat. So the best time to request that is at the time of enlistment, is the best case scenario, right? But more than 45 days out from your current ship date. That's my best advice to you. But as a recruiter, if I know you're in college now, as you know, we have that split training option, right? But you're gonna miss a semester no matter what, right? So yeah, just it depends on your reason. Yeah. But
that's a tough one. You got to talk. You're definitely gonna have to talk personally with your recruiter on that one.
The only time that would work really is if that's your last semester. And we as a recruiter, and I'm pretty sure you guys would do the same thing, we'll get an approved exception to policy as long as you register for that class before you go to sign your contract. And then we push off your training till after you graduate.
Yep. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah. Do you have any insider information on this? I already know the answer.
To bring in personal family day. Wait, is there any plans to bring in personal family day to graduation back? I leave June, but as far as I know, none of that stuff's coming back. At least us. So to touch on it, us personally, for family day, we just do like a Facebook live, live stream, and you just walk in front of the camera and you say, "Hey, mom and dad, love you, miss you," and then like you walk off the camera. So it's nothing extraordinary. Kind of sucks, right? Because COVID and stuff. Us personally at our unit, we'll give them phones for a couple hours at least. I think like 1 to 3 hours. I can't remember exactly for family day. And then graduation for us, because of all the COVID and stuff, we film it all. Yeah, we film it all, and it's all live on our website. And I think it looks pretty good. I've watched like the video of how they do everything with all the different camera angles and how they set up and stuff. And I think it's done pretty good. It's done up as good as we can do it because of COVID. But as of right now, no family is allowed to come on to post unless they like work there, right? Like if you have an aunt or uncle or brother that is a drill sergeant there also or something, then of course they could be there. But as far as I'm aware, no, they're not bringing any of that stuff back, especially by June.
I think this isn't going away for at least a year.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a while, man.
It's definitely here for the long haul. How do you handle the victory wall if you don't like heights?
Don't look
Exactly.
down.
You're going down one way or another.
Just worry about getting to the top, and either you're gonna go down or gravity's gonna bring you down. No, I don't know. It's your basic fear of heights. Don't focus on the ground. Focus on what you're doing.
100%.
My advice.
So this is what I thought he meant. But yeah, so we were thinking in terms of leadership, but I think this is like the soap in a sock type deal.
So if I suck at PT during basic, does that still happen? As far as I know, no.
No.
But and like it just kind of goes back to what we were saying, right? Like we as leaders do everything we possibly can to teach and ensure that that doesn't happen. So I wouldn't worry about it. There's going to be someone, just like there's going to be someone better than you at PT, there's going to be someone worse than you at PT. So I wouldn't stress it. Like I said, just don't be the guy that purposely makes mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. There's no doubt about that. You're not perfect and you have a lot to learn. So you're going to mess things up. So take it for what it is. Take whatever corrective action there is from drill sergeants, but no, from fellow trainees, from your peers, I wouldn't worry about it too much because, like I said, at the end of the day, we're stressing teamwork and camaraderie. So that's just going to do the opposite of building teamwork and camaraderie.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not anything that's supported. If it happens, you're going to receive possible UCMJ action.
Yeah.
Uniform Code of Military Justice, you could be punished because it's destruction of government property. But yeah, man, just don't be that person that just doesn't give enough, right? As long as people see around you that you give enough and you're actually putting in true effort, they will work with you. Just don't be the guy that acts like they don't care, because you will care eventually.
Yeah, I mean, and generally drill sergeants like that too. If we can see that you're doing everything you possibly can to do the right thing and you're pushing as hard as you can and giving your 100%, like it, we might not fully lay off, right? Because we still have to push you, but at the end of the day, we see that, you know, we see a lot more than trainees believe we do.
Let's see. This one's gonna be a tough one. I'm actually doing a video on this. I actually got like a breakdown of how it works. So I'll give you best case scenario, worst case scenario. So this person says, I'm leaving for basic on Monday to Fort Leonard Wood for BH. Do I need to bring my mortgage statement to ship off to qualify for it? Is it okay that under my wife's name? So you're married, so you're automatically going to get it. So you don't need your mortgage. However, the issue that comes here, and I would definitely highly suggest that you engage in conversation with your recruiter, because if your training goes beyond 20 weeks, so all right, the 20-week mark is the hiccup. That's the issue, right? So if your training to include reception and everything else goes beyond 20 weeks, and if you're in the reserve or whatever, it doesn't matter. But what I'm trying to say is, if it goes beyond 20 weeks, your recruiter needs to submit an exception to policy, because what ends up happening is, if your training goes beyond 20 weeks, that's considered a PCS move, and you're going to get the rate of the housing allowance for your training installation. But if, let's say, for argument's sake, your mortgage is $2,000, but the training site BAH rate is $1,000. So you're not going to get enough to afford your mortgage. So your recruiter needs to put in that ETP, or exception to policy, to send it to the training site to approve it, so that you get the rate for your home of record where you're currently at. So that's highly, highly important. Now, everyone who is married have been getting them approved. Those of you that are single and it goes beyond 20 weeks, sorry, but you're not going to get approved over 50% of the time. All right. So hopefully that addresses your question. But a DA 5960 needs to be signed and approved through your command. Sorry, I thought I had something here. Oh, this is an easy one. Absolutely not, Ruben. I'm sorry. You should have came here faster. So the age cutoff is 35 years old on your birthday, not a day later. But we can do an exception to policy up to your 40th, but nothing after the 40th birthday. So, David, I'm glad you brought this up. Extra packing list is not needed. We didn't use nothing that was in our personal bag whatsoever. it's good to take one extra set of clothes, but nothing else really extra. That's pretty much what I say in my video. I just have suggested items if you want to bring them, but they're definitely not need to. I always tell people you can literally leave with the clothes on your back, your original social security card, your ID card, military ID card if you got it, and your debit card, and that's it.
Yep. No, 100%. We see people bring like too much stuff, and it's funny because like we just have them put it in their personal bag and then put it in a locker, and it stays there for the whole time. So just bring enough clothes and hygiene, like travel size stuff, to last you. When you get there, you'll buy everything.
Yep. So that's pretty much what I tell people is my list, and I think I put that disclaimer in the beginning portion of the video. It's a suggested list, and it's just in case, right?
Mhm.
I don't tell you to bring any additional jeans or anything. I just say bring an extra 2 t-shirts, underwear, and socks, a hand towel if you can take a shower, some flip-flops, a lock. So just because they're joining the military doesn't mean that they're trustworthy. They will go in there, get 5-finger discount, and move. So that's like the minimum list. This is actually a really good question. Do you automatically get your CDL if you go 88 Mike, or do you have to take another test if you want a CDL or a civilian job? Do you want to address that, or you want me to address it?
I don't remember. I want to say you get some sort of certificate, but I don't want to be wrong. It's been a while.
There's nothing on the civilian side. However, depending on the state that you're in, how long you've been in for experience, they'll award you. I forgot what it is. I know with the New York Army National Guard, they'll waive a portion of the process, but you still have to go and do everything to get that CDL certification. But it's not like 68 Whiskey where you come out as a nationally certified basic EMT. Do you have any advice from on the active duty side and how someone can request airborne or ranger in their contract?
I mean, my biggest piece of advice would just work with your recruiters. Like, I know that's kind of tough because there's not really too much you can do. It gets attached to contracts. It gets attached to certain jobs. Same thing with bonuses. That's all it really is. It's just like a bonus to try to just persuade people into getting those jobs. But just like you mentioned before, you're joining for that job. You're not joining for airborne. You're not joining for ranger. You're not joining for money. You're joining for that job that you're going to be doing day in and day out, right? Because if you want to be airborne and the only thing it's attached to is being a cook and you don't like being a cook, well, you're just going to be an airborne cook. But at the end of the day, you're still a cook. Like, you're still going to be cooking and doing your job. So try not to get too fixated on that. But obviously, if you can get in your contract, definitely do. But it's just like I said, it's just like bonuses. It gets attached. I don't know if National Guard works any different, but I know that's how active was for us.
So unless your state has an airborne specific, unit, it's definitely not anything that's going to be in your contract. So when you're at the basic training site and or AIT, if they're offering it, raise your hand. You have to be really, really good at PT to more or less be pre-qualified or to be considered to be given one of those slots when they're looking for people to fill in those. I've recently had 2 people come back airborne qualified. And while you're at airborne, they're going to offer you to do RASP, right? Or even ranger. If they offer it, then just raise your hand and go for it if you're willing to do it, right? Because once you get to your unit, it's very, very difficult to get it. We already pretty much addressed that.
Oh, yeah. OSIT. Just imagine the whole time basic training.
And we already addressed this one. AIT, no one's getting off-post pass, and even on base passes are restricted.
As far as we know, right? Because I'm a basic training drill sergeant, not an AIT drill sergeant, so I don't know what they do in we call it AIT land. We don't know what they do over there.
Yep. So let's see. Here we go. That's for you.
Any benefits if you're a platoon guide on the basic training? Yeah, you get to carry the stick with the guide on. I don't know. There's no other benefits. You're responsible for the guide on. So the benefit is you get more responsibility. Congratulations. Don't mess it up. You're in front of the whole platoon, and drill sergeant can see if and when you mess up.
100%. Oh man, I lost my spot in the chat.
Oh.
Normally it stays highlighted when it skips it. Here, I'll do this one for now. I don't know if you can answer that.
Info. So oddly enough, although I'm infantry, my first unit I was ever in was a cav unit. What kind of information do you want? Cav Scouts are, their primary goal is to do reconnaissance, mainly for the infantry, but just for everyone in general, right? Just to get information. Platoon sizes are about half of what an infantry platoon size is. You guys get cool little spurs for doing things, and you guys get cool hats for being cav. I mean, I don't know. Look it up. There's plenty of videos on exactly. It's such a broad question, so I don't know how to exactly answer that.
So with this one, Jason, I actually did a video on joining the military while at an older age. Go check that out. But just honestly, I think you're going to have an easier transition versus somebody who's never left their home with no real responsibilities. So if you're older, then you're more mature. You have some experience under your belt. And, you probably won't take it offensively when a drill sergeant's in your face screaming and yelling at you. Probably expect to be assigned to a student leadership towards the beginning because you're older. But, just drink the Kool-Aid and have fun and embrace the process. Embrace the suck with each other. And a lot of kids will probably look up to you and ask you for advice and, just be there for them. Be a battle buddy.
Yeah. One of the biggest issues that I've seen people with being older is the fact that you're older and wiser. So you have more of an understanding. So yeah, just like you said, there's gonna be a lot of people that do come to you for questions and do ask you even like life questions. But also there are those younger kids that grew up with their parents doing everything for them, and they're the ones that can't get right. And you're going to be stuck in the same platoon with them, getting punished for possibly their mistakes. But yeah, it's just something to get through. I don't know how to explain that anymore, because being older, you have such an understanding of, like you said, life and being away from home, being away from family. But there's a lot of these kids that don't. So just set the example and be the example, I guess, is my biggest piece of advice, being the older person.
Here's a complaint.
Let's see. Trade-off in general was the issue of mass punishment. It never goes away. Depends what you consider mass punishment, I guess, because so if I go up to the bay and someone's bed is messed up, to me that's everyone's fault, right? Because everyone lives there. So you're telling me that the person to the left and to the right of that person that sleeps there couldn't do anything to help fix the problem either. So I'm not saying that it's a mass punishment thing. Like it's you guys need to look out for each other. And if you're not, and if you're going to be an individual and you're not going to tell that person, hey, fix your bunk, and you're going to get punished for it because you also did the wrong thing. You walked by the wrong answer and did nothing about it. So
part of mass punishment, at least in a training environment, is we're trying to instill self-discipline along with working together as a team. And we're preparing you for essentially combat. So if we're giving you a task, and whether it's on purpose or by mistake, there are consequences. So in combat, there are consequences as well, and you have to deal with those scenarios at that time. So if you're being punished for something and you don't like it, then do better, right? Because if you make a mistake in combat, somebody might be coming home in a body bag.
Yep.
So attention to detail, work together as a team. So when you're playing sports, when you work together as a team, right, you increase the chances of winning the game. So it's imperative that we learn to work together, do our part, pull our own weight, and then some. And yeah, I mean, just drive on.
Mm-hmm.
Do drill sergeants get mad when you actually do question them about whatever it is that they just explained?
Actually, do you have a question? No. Well,
it depends on the.
Yeah, it depends on the question, right? Like if I said something word for word, if I said 1 + 1 = 2, and then I said, does anyone have any questions? And you raise your hand and you say, hey, what is 1 + 1? I'm going to be a little upset, right? Because I literally said it word for word. But if it's a question pertaining to like something that I didn't hit on, or it just needs more clarification, definitely not. Like I said, my job is to train and mentor. I'm here to produce soldiers, right? And I want them to be soldiers that I'm willing to work with in the future, because you never know. I might run into them in the future as well. So no, I wouldn't get mad. Me personally, anyways. I don't foresee any other drill sergeants also doing that, but I could be wrong. It just depends on who you get, I guess. But I don't see why they would get mad. If it's a good like I don't understand this or I need more clarification, me personally, I'd be more than willing to help somebody out.
If it's something that you can ask your battle buddy after it's done, right? So that's why it's important to work together as a team. So instead of holding everyone up because some simple explanation was given, maybe you dismiss it, you couldn't hear them, don't stop everyone else from doing what they're supposed to do, right? Just ask your battle buddy, right? Ask your student leadership, leverage them, that could be another thing too.
Yeah. Haha. I was hoping you'd click on her. One of my longtime, now close-ish friends. I would consider her. She's awesome. I really do appreciate it. Any word on changing the weighing scale in accordance with ACFT? Not as far as I'm aware of. That's kind of a good question.
No,
but
the weights are still going to stay the same, unfortunately.
Yeah, as far as I know, lifting more. Yeah, that does make you bring up a good point. I'll call the president and I'll ask him personally.
So I had this conversation with somebody recently, not too long ago, actually. PRT in of itself was not originally designed for strength training. It's more mobility, flexibility, and just body weight exercises, right? Yeah, they had like kettlebells and pull-ups and stuff like that, but it's not really geared towards a CrossFit-like PT test. So they definitely have to revamp some of the PRT to make it more accommodating for what the ACFT demands. That's just my personal opinion. It's just not geared towards for the ACFT. So that's one of the things that I think that they have to improve on and factor into the training in the future if they want this to be a success.
100%. Yeah, because people are going to have to do things outside of PRT, right, to improve on their ACFT.
I mean, in my personal opinion, you can pass the ACFT easily at the minimum standards. Pass it, in my opinion. I think everyone should be passing it because the standards aren't bad.
No,
just pass it. But it is definitely way more challenging compared to the APFT to exceedingly pass it with a perfect score. Here's a good question for you, because you were obviously active duty. So when you graduated from OSET and went into your unit, what were some of the things that you experienced?
So first off, if I read this person's name correctly earlier, I know exactly who this is as well. And it's funny because he said berserkers. He knows what it means. But things to expect, it just depends on what unit you go to, where you go. I mean, that's huge, right? I've never been stationed overseas. So I've never been stationed in Korea, Germany, Italy. And so I couldn't even tell you how it is for the arrival there. It's probably got to be pretty crazy to show up to the airport and not be able to read things, right? Go to Korea and not be able to read anything. So, but first unit in general, as long as you don't show up as a know-it-all and as I know exactly what I'm doing because I went through basic training, as long as you understand I went through basic training, I have no military experience, I have no experience of being in the Army, I just have basic training under my belt and AIT, the same thing that everyone else has under their belt. As long as you understand that, you'll be fine. But if you show up and you're like, oh, back in AIT, they taught us this, or back in basic training, they said this, you might have a hard time if you're using that to argue with people. So, but generally, as long as you learn everything you can and you remember everything from basic and you learn everything you can from AIT and you bring that to your unit, you'll be welcomed in and you should be just fine. I wouldn't stress anything about showing up to your first unit. As long as you're a good soldier, right? I think as leaders, that's one of the biggest things that we want to see is oh, this kid's fresh out of basic. Let's see what he has. And when he doesn't know something so simple, then it's what did you learn in basic training? You didn't commit any time to your job, to your career. And then now that's stuff that we have to do as leaders to ensure that you're up to speed with us. But that's taking time away from us training everyone else, because it's something that everyone else already knows and you should know, but you don't know. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So as long as you're, as long as you know your place, right? As long as you're not big-headed about, oh, I graduated AIT, because so did everyone else.
You're
But
not special.
yeah, but no, you should be.
Yeah, go ahead.
But it'll be a good time. First unit, and like I said, if this is somebody that I had in my last cycle, when you get to your first unit, it's gonna be nothing like basic training. You wake up in your barracks room, or if you're married, then you wake up obviously at home. You go to work and PTs. Just show up on time, do PT, eat breakfast. You get breakfast. Usually it's like an hour, hour and a half. Then you work till lunch, and then you work till dinner ish. If you don't get off early, and then you go home. Like it's the lifestyle's pretty nice after basic training.
100%. My only advice to anyone who's going to their unit for the very first time is have a good attitude, have impeccable work ethic. First impressions are last impressions. Don't be holding the wall up, finding a hole. Do not, immerse yourself in E4 mafia, trying to scam out of everything. Volunteer for things. Your glass is always half full. It should be your mentality, right? You don't know everything. Be willing to learn and learn from the soldiers that are seasoned, especially your leadership, right? Hopefully you find somebody who's going to mentor you, and hopefully you have good leadership, right? So there are good leaders and there are not so good leaders, and sometimes your mentor is actually somebody that's outside of your chain of command.
Yeah.
So, just keep that in mind. Just put your best foot forward every day, do your best. And I promise you that if you give 200%, you will have a positive experience out of this. And it is what you put into it. So what you put into it is what you get out of it. If you're a go-getter, you work hard, and you are forever learning, whether it's leadership about your MOS, you're going to go far in this organization. But if you're going to be a minimalist and have that minimalist mentality, you are not going to go far in this organization. You're not going to have fun, right? And don't do things don't be stupid, right? Because if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. So for this one, I'm going to say that if you are a split op, right, you do basic training, let's say you're a high school junior and you do a split op where you do basic training this summer and then AIT the following summer. If you live nearby within a reasonable travel distance, then yes, you could possibly go through your leadership to get permission to drive them to AIT. However, if you're at a basic training environment, they have to maintain that bubble, right, of safety. So they have to wait until they have sterile transportation to transport you from point A to point B. By you picking them up, you could be asymptomatic, not even realize that you have COVID, or somehow contract it on the way there.
Yep.
So unfortunately, you're gonna have to stay with the sterile transportation.
Yeah, as far as I know, our answer to that is no. Even if we have people graduate from basic training and then they ship to like Fort Huachuca. They go all the way to Arizona from Oklahoma. We actually put them on a bus and a drill sergeant goes with them, and they literally stay on that bus until they get to Fort Huachuca, just like you said, so you don't break the bubble. So there's no seal that's broken of you, the possibility of you catching COVID, and then taking it to the training site. It just makes things easier for when you get there.
100%. So can officers change their MOS like the enlisted?
I'm not an officer.
So when it comes to officers, it's a branch, not an MOS. Enlisted have MOSs, like real jobs. Officers are trained in that general field, right? And as an officer, at least as far as what I've seen so far in the National Guard, I don't know how it is on the active duty side, but I'm pretty much, I mean, you could probably verify this, but in the Guard, you may originally enlist and be branched as, let's say, communications. And you'll be there for 6 to 9 years maybe. But as you grow throughout the organization, you may go through a different unit and branch into another branch. So, for example, when I was a recruiter at the chemical unit, when he first joined the military, he was a military police officer. He branched as military police. And then when he went to the chemical unit, at that point, he branched as a chemical officer. And from there, he went to a sustainment brigade. So he changed to whatever branch that dealt with at that time. So you're going to be moving around as an officer every 3 years. So you may end up ultimately branching as something else, regardless whether you want it or not, because it's based on the needs of the Army. Do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I mean, I have exactly the same information. I have a couple of friends that were quote infantry officers with me, and they're platoon leaders, but their actual job was military intelligence, or like CBRN, right? Chemical stuff like that. And they branched over to infantry, did that for, I think it was like 3 years or 2 years. I can't remember exactly. And then they had an opportunity to go back, or I think there was a way that you could fully transfer over if you wanted to. But yeah, just like you said, it's a branching thing. It's not a specific MOS. But just because you're that MOS doesn't mean, like when I was in my cav unit, this is wild. When I was in my cav unit, we were in a cav unit and I was in an infantry company, but my platoon leader was CBRN, and he wasn't even branch detailed out for like a cav scout or infantry. He was CBRN. He was still like CBRN. So the officer world, crazy. Hard for me to answer questions on that because I'm personally not an officer. So I don't want to give out any false information.
I'm sure you can put a request at any point, but it's ultimately up to your leadership to approve it or not. So if there's a need for it and that's what you want to go for, then they possibly can. I mean, you can request whatever you want. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it. But so could you leave the Army before going to AIT, even under contract? I mean, you're under contract regardless. But Owen, if you're leaving before you finish AIT, it's for a negative reason, unless you're medically injured or something like that and getting chaptered out for medical reasons. It's not like a civilian company where you can put in your 2 weeks and be like, I made a mistake. Deuces, everybody.
Yeah, it definitely does not work like that.
And if you're active duty and you decide to leave without permission or going through the proper channels,
it's AWOL.
Yeah.
Straight up AWOL.
And if you ever get picked up by the police and eventually, then you will be transported back to your last duty station and be processed through UCMJ from there. So don't do it.
Yep.
The fastest way out of the Army is to finish your contract.
Yep. That's everything in the Army, right? Like,
oh yeah.
Basic training, best way, fastest way, just go straight through. AIT, same thing. Contract, same thing. Like, that's literally the Army. There's no easy way out. You know, you signed up for it. I'm sure you tell people all the time it's a volunteer force. You're volunteering, you stick with it. You know, you raise your hand, you sign the contract, no one forced you to do anything. So it's a commitment, and it is a lifestyle change, but it's something that you chose to do. And just like you said, everyone has their reasons to do it. I don't know why you would back out. I'm pretty sure there's a good reason to make such a big change in your life.
It is a big boy decision or a big girl decision for that matter. And it's something to not take lightly. So hopefully anyone who's thinking about joining or who have joined, do the right thing, because this is a public legal document. If you get discharged and you apply for a job, whether it's for corporate, for a city, state, or a federal entity, and they ask you that question, have you ever served in the military? You're going to have to say yes, because they can look in the system and see what type of service you had. And they're going to ask you, why were you generally discharged, not honorably discharged? Or why were you dishonorably discharged? So this is going to be part of your resume, whether you like it or not. If you raised your hand to partake in this journey, then fulfill it honorably, do what you need to do. Obviously, I know that once you get there, right, you may not like it. Cool. Bet, I understand. But do what you need to do and leave on a positive foot, on a positive note, because you can get into some serious legal troubles, and the military is not as friendly as the civilian courts. So just make sure you do what you're supposed to do.
Yep. Easiest way is through. Whoa. That was you.
If I join the National Guard, do I have to leave my state to go to boot camp? 100%. Whether you're guard, active duty, or reserve, we all get the same training at the same locations. And none of your training, for many of you, will be in the same state. So yeah. These ones are tough, but they have been approved before and they have been denied. So just talk to your recruiter. They'll look at your record, and they'll see what they can do for you from there. But it really depends on your unique scenario. That's funny.
I saw someone already replied to this. As long as it's for a religious purpose.
Yep, that's the only time. Now I hear. Did you hear Rumorville?
No.
Rumorville has it that they're possibly adding additions to the hairstyles, earrings, and beards to the regulation.
I did not know that. So is that? I'm gonna assume that's based off of the recent changes or the changes that they're trying to make in AR-670-1 with the what was it, the females' hairs, just the way that like it's worded and like different hairstyles and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I think they need to revamp something. I'm not saying like to let people have massive beards just because that's obviously going to affect
if they approve the beard. But yeah, it's probably gonna have to be a short beard.
Yeah,
but it's definitely not going to be like a full blown out Santa Claus beard for sure.
But I mean, like me personally, I really don't care too much about having to grow out a beard because I can't.
It's because you can't grow it. I seen your beard. Let's see. But yeah. But yeah, as of right now, not unless it's for a religious purpose, and that's got to get approved, preferably before you enlist. But it can be done a little more difficult while you're already in, but it can be done. We actually did you know about the drill sergeant with the beard at the academy after us? I
think I heard or saw.
Yeah, it's a thing. He went through the United States Army Drill Sergeant Academy with a beard.
That's wild. I mean, good for him. I'm not against any of that. Like I don't understand why. I don't know. I don't want to dive too much into that topic, but it's just if that's their religion, then let them be. You know, I'm all for it.
Well, that's what I like about the Army. We're extremely diverse.
Yeah, and we adapt and we change. We're okay with changing with the times as long as it makes sense.
100%. Let's see.
Can you choose?
Oh,
state. Oh, I don't. Wait. Oh, National Guard unit.
So Zico, you're going to be leaving right after AIT and going straight home. So unless you work it out with your leadership to release you from there, but that would probably come out of your pocket for travel, because if you don't schedule it through them and coordinate travel through the training site, you're going to go when they tell you to go. But that's going to require some sort of approval from your leadership. But I would have to say that would be a no. If I was underweight at MEPS, do I have to put weight on before boot camp? So with that one, you should be at least the same weight as you enlisted at minimum, or heavier, preferably heavier.
Preferably, because if you're that close, then you're probably really good at losing weight.
If I don't meet the height and weight requirements, will I still be able to ship if my body fat percentage is good? Yeah, as long as your body fat is within the maximum allowable body fat, you're good. You'll lose that weight when you get to training anyway.
Well, like I think that's a thing that people think wrong about, because I've known people that didn't meet height and weight requirements because they were just that like built. You know, like I've had some big, like strong friends that work out freaking 2-3 times a day, and their body fat was like next to nothing. But they're what's up?
Long story short, my best friend, he was like that. I enlisted him in the Guard, and he was denied from the Air Force for being too heavy.
That's
and
wild.
It took 6 months to get a body fat percentage waiver to get approved, and by then he's already been in the Guard for 3 months.
Yeah, I think that's insane. I mean, I guess that's what they do over there, but I know for us, it just, like I said, it makes sense, right? If you're over the weight, you know, the height to weight ratio or whatever, but you have like a 2% body fat, then that just means you're really lean and like really built. You have a lot of muscle. Like I don't see why that would be a bad thing.
Yep, 100%. So this will be our last question of the evening. It looks like we'll have to do this again because so this one's for you, man. How difficult has it been during basic training with all this COVID stuff?
So if you were here earlier, that I've only been through one cycle, so it's very difficult for me to compare to how it was pre-COVID. But I will say just with the issues that I've ran into because of COVID, it's tough. Being a drill sergeant personally, it's difficult in the sense of like it's more stuff that you have to worry about. It's ensuring that people are distancing themselves from each other. It's ensuring that people are washing their hands more. It's ensuring that people are wearing their masks more. And then as a drill sergeant, I have to give a lot of instruction. I have to talk a lot, and it's very difficult to do that with a mask on and expect trainees to understand the directions that I'm giving, the instructions that I'm giving, or what I'm teaching. There's a lot of times where I'm teaching classes with a mask on, and I really just hope that I can be understood enough that the trainees get the information. Because a lot of the stuff, me personally, that I give out is I believe to be gold. It's stuff that will help them personally in the Army, not just the basic training side of it, but life experiences of me being in the Army. So COVID has definitely thrown a wrench in everything. But just like the Army, it goes rolling along. I don't know if that's cheesy to say, but the Army goes rolling along.
Always rolling along, man.
Yeah.
If you made it this far into the stream, there's 105 of you on here. Do me a favor, drop a hashtag Team SWARTZ down in the comment section. In the comment section or in the description area underneath this video is Drill Sergeant Takashima's Twitch account and YouTube channel. Definitely go and subscribe to him, follow him on Twitch, all that good stuff. Drill Sergeant, thank you so much for being on here. It's been amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been awesome. And I'd be more than happy to do it again. Just last thing I'm going to say is everyone in the chat, thank you for all of the questions. There's been some amazing questions. Thank you all for the support, and go watch Team SWARTZ videos. I mean, you have so much information, man. It's wild. There's a lot of stuff that I learned, right? Like I'm living this being a drill sergeant, and I watch your videos. So I appreciate you, and I couldn't be more thankful that you would ask me to even come on here and do this with you. So thank you.
Well, I'm really glad you decided to, because you're in there right now. So,
yeah.
But yeah, man, I really do appreciate you taking the time to come on here. I thought it was only gonna be an hour, but it was going so good, and you didn't complain. I was like,
no, never. I would never complain. It's fine. I love this kind of stuff. You already know. Everyone already knows I do the whole Twitch thing. So I love being in front of the camera. Love talking to everyone. Love answering questions. So if for some reason Team SWARTZ isn't having like a live stream, but you have an off the wall question and I'm live on Twitch, feel free to just stop in and ask the question. I'm more than happy to help people. But yeah, thank you again. It's been amazing.
Definitely appreciate you, man. And good to see you. We'll have to chat some more. And for everyone else that was here, thank you so much again. Echo what he said. Thank you for everything. And without you guys, this channel would not be as it is. And I am very, very informative. And sometimes I feel like my videos may be too long for people because not everybody gets past the 40 to 50% mark of the video. So I try to be as precise, and I try not to repeat anything throughout the videos. I'm very, informative, as you can tell. So if you want shorter videos, more to the point, I guess, without the explanation behind everything, let me know down in the comment section below this video. But again, thank you all for coming on here. Drill Sergeant, appreciate you. And we'll take it from there. Any other questions from you?
No questions at all. I've had a blast. Thank you.
Well, you definitely earned that Team SWARTZ coin.
Yeah, I have it. It's in my bag. I know exactly where it is.
All right.
I didn't know if I should show that off yet, but since you said it, I'll show it off.
There you go. You should. It's a limited edition.
Oh yeah, I know. Dude, that was insane, man. The fact that I got one, I couldn't be more blessed. That's amazing. Best roommate ever, by the way.
Yeah. we helped each other out. You helped me out.
I mean, we helped each other out. It was a crazy time. The academy was rough, man. So
yeah. Have you actually done the modules?
What do you mean done? Oh, like said them to people? No. So we don't have to pitch them word for word, but some places do. I have a friend at Fort Jackson that they say it word for word, but it does not hurt to know all the modules. If there's for some reason anyone in here that's going to go be a drill sergeant, know the modules, because that information is amazing when it comes to teaching trainees how to do it. So
Heck yeah. Well, appreciate you. We're going to sign it off right now. And everyone else, have a good night. And I'll see you next week if I don't go live later on this week. But thank you very much and have a blessed night. Take care. Thank you.